The Fallout series has many creepy aspects to it, but here is my list for the creepiest locations in the Bethesda Fallout series. Vault 22. The most important part of something being creepy is the atmosphere, and in my opinion, the atmosphere and aesthetic of Vault 22 is incomparable. Vault 22 was an experiment aiming to keep its vault dwellers alive with plants grown within its confines. The experiment was fairly successful, exceeding all expectations. But with this, eventually came devastating side effects, turning the vault's inhabitants into fungus-exposed monsters. When entering, you will notice that the vault, from the outside, is completely infested with plants, with a sign set up by escaped vault dwellers, warning wastelanders from entering. The inside is very much the same, always in rooms covered in vines, plants, and spores. Creatures known as spore carriers, the infected vault dwellers, can be found and are prone to attack you, lounging at you unexpectedly, hidden in vegetation, subsequently scaring the player, their creepy-looking humanoid form not helping. What makes this vault creepier than the rest of the New Vegas vaults is the atmosphere and the aesthetic. The vault just feels naturally empty, abandoned if you will, with a dark and grimy vegetated environment and eerie ambience music that makes strolling through the vault feel uneasy. Strange voices and typing sounds can also be heard in this vault, seemingly part of the ambience music. The Dunwich Building. The Dunwich Building, before the war, was owned by a company known as Dunwich Borers, a company which manufactured drilling tools. Eventually, the bombs dropped, and most of its workers were turned into feral ghouls. The Dunwich Building, upon entering, is quiet and dark and immediately becomes a chilling experience to explore, complemented by a fitting ambience. The building is infested with feral ghouls, attacking you in sight, which might come as a bit of a fright to unsuspecting players due to the tense atmosphere. But the Dunwich Building is more notable besides the atmosphere for the building's strange, paranormal occurrences. To start with, in the Dunwich Building's entrance, you can find a self-opening door. In one of the building's many rooms, a coffee pot will be tossed to the floor, and subsequently, a fan on a desk is knocked over. Lastly, you may experience a hallucinative flashback at the beginning of the Dunwich ruins. Many holotapes can also be found around the building and its ruins, telling an unsettling story about the building's employees and their eventual transformation into feral ghouls, giving context to the unsettling nature of the Dunwich Building. The Lone Wolf Radio Shack. In Fallout New Vegas, there is an abandoned shack containing radio equipment that seems to have little to no purpose. Many write it off as just another piece of scenery in the abandoned Mojave wasteland, but that may not have always been the case. The story of the Lone Wolf Radio Shack is as follows. The Lone Wolf Radio Shack in Fallout New Vegas appears abandoned, but this was not always the case. Originally, it was planned to be the home of the Lone Wolf, a character far more sadistic and depraved than any before featured in the Fallout franchise. It was planned to host the Lone Wolf radio station, which would feature insane ramblings and rants at unpredictable intervals throughout the day, until 11 PM, when the station would go quiet. The Lone Wolf would then return at 3 AM with a child A different child was featured every night because the lone wolf would announce an heir every night. Everyone is gone. You are all alone. Let it all end. Before viciously murdering them live on the station. Listening to the broadcast at 3 AM would initiate a quest, Little Dead Riding Hood, in which the courier has to track down the wolf and kill him or join him in murdering a child, resulting in a perk that allows the player to kill other in-game children. Accessing the child murder option was supposed to be very difficult to achieve. The character quest and perk were ultimately scrapped due to their shocking nature, plus the sheer effort required to record a unique murder for every night until the quest is complete. However, somewhere in Obsidian's archives, there exist recordings made for the Lone Wolf radio station, including simulated child murders never to be released. All that remains in the final game is a small abandoned shack and small clues hidden throughout the Mojave. Andale. In Fallout 3, south of the Fairfax ruins, there is a little town called Andale. Andale, upon visiting, seems like a pretty decent place. Inhabiting Andale seem to be kind and friendly people who are very welcoming, claiming to be the greatest town in Virginia, even offering to have you for dinner. The people who live in Andale are happy, but there seems to be something off about it. In one of the houses, there is an old man who lives in a rundown shack who the residents would prefer the lone wanderer to take no notice of since he's obviously a lunatic. The old man tells the player that the people in Andale are crazy and that he should leave because
people wander in here and they don't wander back out.
Something is obviously wrong. The Smith family own a locked hidden basement, which can be opened by finding the key in the Smiths' upstairs bedroom. Once you enter the basement, you will discover a deep, dark secret about the town's inhabitants. The basement is filled with the cut-up remains of humans. On the tables lie mutilated bodies with amputated body parts on the side of them and littered around the floors. Skeletons are suspended on meat hooks, along with several cages containing more skeletons sat in submission. Several refrigerators can be found in this room. Inside these refrigerators are pieces of human meat, some prepared for eating, and kebab sticks. The Wilson family also own a shed which contains mostly the same contents. The joyful residents of Andale are inbred serial cannibals, killing hundreds of wastelanders to feed off of. Springville Elementary. In northern Springville, you may come across a rundown building with an accompanying sign which reads Springville Elementary. Springville Elementary is an old abandoned school which was used in the 21st century educating children throughout Virginia. The school was eventually severely damaged in the Great War by the bombings, killing sheltered children and teachers instantly. The school is inhabited with raiders who will attack you on sight. Aside from the raiders, as you walk through the building, the emptiness and the grittiness of the once active school grounds is enough to send shivers down your spine. Along with the atmosphere, what you may find inside is even more chilling. As you walk through the hallways and classrooms, you will find corpses hanging from the ceilings, blood splattered on the walls, and mutilated bodies and body parts lying on the floor. The building also seems to contain several cages, some of them with the skeletons of small children inside them. How they got in there and died is unknown.